So, one of the things that Dr. Robert Young says is pain is acid and acid is pain. So it doesn't surprise me that as you start becoming more alkaline, you're going to see the pain shifting and regeneration of new cells. So one of the things I want to talk to you today, and I don't know what the previous speaker really said, but many of our current illnesses are attributable to certain lifestyle. The way we think, the way we eat, the way we drink, and the way we move. Most of our bodily processes, whether it's breathing or whether it's digesting, require that the body create acid. So what's happening? We're eating, we're breathing, we're moving, we're exercising, and we're creating acid in our body. So the real thing about alkalizing is neutralizing that acid. Now, I wish I had a board, and I'm sorry I don't. But one of the key concepts I'd like you to think about is that whenever anything is acid, it is negatively charged. I don't know, did we go into any of the chemistry behind what is pH? Okay, so does anyone here understand what is pH, potential of hydrogen? Okay, we've got a couple of nods, a couple of not so sures. Well, let's see. We have a scale. Imagine there's a blackboard here, and 7 is neutral, and 14 is very alkaline, and 0 is very acidic. What we're trying to do here in keeping our balance is stay at around neutral, or 7. But most of the foods that we eat, most of the things that we drink, most of the exercise that we perform pulls us down into this zone, closer into the acid zone. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to pull your body further up into the more alkaline zone to neutralize what's happening over here. So who loves chocolate? One of the things that a lot of my clients talk to me about is, well, you know, I love dessert. I love pasta. I love bread. I love bread. I put myself through college on breakfast cereal. You know, and we're taught to go into the store and shop all the aisles, and I inform my clients that the best way to do some grocery shopping is stay out of the center of the grocery store, stay away from the processed foods, and stay on the perimeter where you can find more alkalizing choices. So one of the most alkalizing choices that you can make is anything green and live. So you had this beautiful lunch this afternoon. Would anyone like to tell me what they thought about eating that lunch? Delicious. Was good? Yeah? Yes?
It gives raw food a good name.
Raw food a good name, right.
Okay.
It also gives me energy. In other words, a lot of times if you're used to eating pasta and things like that, you get tired afterwards. I used to say I can never eat pasta and drive. I'm part Italian. So this food, I feel energized after I eat it.
Yes.
I think that's the good, you feel light, you don't feel bogged down.
Yes. The food that you had this afternoon was on the alkaline scale. It had a negative charge. Everything that is on the acid side in chemistry has a positive charge. So anything, imagine again, this is sort of like 7 to 1. It's got a positive charge. Anything on this side of the scale is going to have a negative charge. So it's a little confusing because we think that plus means it's good. Well, in this case, if it's a plus, it's bad. So what we want to do is we want to eat more foods that have a negative charge that are going to neutralize anything on this side of the scale. So what are they? Probably the best food that you can have is chlorophyll. So anything green, anything grass, anything growing, pretty much anything live and green is going to be very alkalizing. Now, a lot of people say, well, how do I do live and green on an ongoing basis? It's really hard for a lot of people. Think about what you're currently eating now. The pasta that you're eating, in order to digest it, you're going to create more acid in your body. You're putting in acid, you then have a greater desire for acid, so what's going to happen? Well, you know, I want that tiramisu after the pasta. That's not the way we want to go when we want to talk about alkalizing. So when we talk about alkalizing, We want to have the live green food, 70% of our plate being alkalizing, and maybe 30% of our plate being more acid-producing foods. So one of the key things that my clients ask me about is fat. And Dr. Young talks about fat as being very, very, very important to an alkalizing diet. There are 4 different kinds of fat that we have to be aware of. And 2 of those types of fat are okay, but one, especially the saturated fat, any of the animal sources, dairy, meat, eggs especially, anything that's solid at room temperature is a fat you definitely want to stay away from. You can use it as a fuel, but because it has a positive charge, it does not bind with acid. Acid is already positive, so 2 positives are not going to neutralize each other. They're just going to create more acid. Trans fat. This has been in the media a tremendous amount. What is a trans fat? A trans fat is when hydrogen is added to any vegetable oil. It converts it to a positive charge. So we want to stay away from heating our oils for the most part. And you cannot really use this as fuel because the body doesn't really understand how to use it, and you cannot use it to bind acid. So again, these trans fats, anything really heated, you want to stay away from. Monounsaturated fats are fabulous. We live here in Southern California. We've got access to a lot of avocados. What is a monounsaturated fat? Well, monounsaturated fat basically means that you have an extra negative hydrogen ion, so it's got a negative charge, right? So what we can do with a monounsaturated fat is we can use this not only as fuel, but we can use it to bind the acid. So if you're eating a lot of avocados, 2, 3, 4 a day, and I have plenty of recipes for avocados, you're really, in addition to eating fat, you're really helping to bind acid within your body. It's a wonderful food. Polyunsaturated fats are actually the best fats you can have. Polyunsaturated means that there are more than 2 negative hydrogen ions that are unbound and that can grab onto an acid and eliminate it from your body. So what is a polyunsaturated fat? It's the omegas 3, 6, and 9s. It's fish oil. It's all the raw nuts, safflower seeds, sesame seeds, walnuts, pumpkin, flax seeds. It's also fish, trout, salmon, tuna, sardines, that kind of thing. Now, I know a lot of people in the alkaline community do not focus on fish as a protein, but it is something that if you want to have an animal protein on occasion, it's a nice way to include that into your diet. Polyunsaturated fats are great because they bind a lot of acid. So we want to be really including a lot of fats. They make us feel full. They're very satisfying. Especially, I make a wonderful, I call it a chocolate mousse. It doesn't use chocolate, but a chocolate mousse using avocados. It's very satisfying. I don't use any sugar. I have found great little ways to substitute where, I think, okay, well, what can I do for sugar? Well, let's see, there's honey. Well, honey is very acid forming. There's agave. It's less acid forming, but it still is. I found a great product that I can use, and I'm not worried about sugar. In fact, I brought some of my favorite products with me.